My boss fired me for a mistake I didn't make. You're useless. You'll never succeed anyway. I stayed silent. But when his company started crumbling, my phone exploded with 58 missed calls. I'd always been a hard worker. For 5 years, I'd poured my heart and soul into my job at Technova, a rising tech company. I wasn't the most outgoing person in the office, but I was reliable, detail-oriented, and always willing to go the extra mile. My boss, Mr. Carter, was the opposite. Charismatic, loud, and always the center of attention, he built Technova from the ground up. Everyone admired him, everyone except me. I'd always sensed something off about him, but I kept my head down and focused on my work. That all changed one Monday morning. I walked into the office, coffee in hand, ready for another week of crunching numbers and debugging code. But as soon as I stepped into the bullpen, I noticed the stares. Whispered conversations stopped as I passed. My coworker, Sarah, avoided eye contact. Then I saw the email. Effective immediately, Mark Thompson is terminated for gross negligence and misconduct. This decision is final. I stared at the screen, my stomach churning. Gross negligence? Misconduct? What the hell was going on? I stormed into Mr. Carter's office, my hands shaking. What is this? I didn't do anything wrong. He leaned back in his chair, a smug smile on his face. Mark, you're useless. You'll never succeed anyway. Consider this a favor. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just grabbed my things and walked out. But as I drove home, my mind was racing. If Mr. Carter thought he could destroy my career, he had no idea who he was dealing with. The next few weeks were a blur. I tried to explain what had happened to my coworkers, but no one would listen. Mr. Carter had already spun the narrative, painting me as the villain who'd nearly destroyed the company. Mark, I'm sorry, but I can't risk my job for you, Sarah said, avoiding my eyes. I didn't blame her. I knew how persuasive Mr. Carter could be. But the worst part? The way he treated me after I was gone. He posted a company-wide email, detailing my gross negligence, and warning others not to make the same mistakes. He even gave an interview to a tech blog, calling me a cautionary tale for aspiring professionals. I felt like I was drowning. I couldn't find another job. Every time I applied, I was met with silence or polite rejections. I started to wonder if Mr. Carter had blacklisted me somehow. My savings dwindled, and I was forced to move out of my apartment and into a tiny studio. I sold my car, canceled my subscriptions, and started eating ramen for every meal. But the real kicker? My girlfriend, Emily, left me. Mark, I can't do this anymore, she said, tears in her eyes. You're not the same person I fell in love with. I didn't argue. I just watched as she walked out the door, taking the last shred of my dignity with her. I felt like I'd hit rock bottom. But then, something clicked. If Mr. Carter thought he could destroy my life, he was about to learn a hard lesson. I didn't confront Mr. Carter right away. Instead, I played the long game. I needed to make sure that when I struck, it would be devastating. I started by reaching out to an old college friend, Sarah, who worked in cybersecurity. She'd always been a whiz with computers, and I knew she could help me uncover the truth about Technova's shady dealings. Mark, this is risky, she said when I explained the situation. If Carter finds out what you're doing, he could make your life even harder. I nodded. I know. But I can't let him get away with this. He's not just hurting me, he's hurting everyone around him. Sarah agreed to help, and within days, she'd uncovered something shocking. Mark, Technova's been inflating its revenue numbers for years. Carter's been using fake invoices, shell companies, the works. And it's not just small amounts, we're talking millions of dollars. I felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. This was bigger than I thought. Carter wasn't just a bully, he was a criminal. I thanked Sarah and got to work. I needed to gather as much evidence as possible. Emails, financial records, internal documents, anything that could prove what he was doing. But I didn't act yet. I wanted to see how far he'd go. Carter, meanwhile, was getting bolder. He started posting on social media about his unstoppable rise, tagging investors and celebrities in every post. So grateful for my amazing team. Together, we're changing the world. The comments were full of praise. Visionary. The next Steve Jobs. I just smiled. Let them enjoy their moment. It wouldn't last long. Carter and his team were getting sloppy. They thought they were untouchable, but their arrogance was their downfall. One night, I got a tip from a former coworker who'd been fired for asking too many questions. "Mark, you need to see this. Carter's been funneling money into offshore accounts. And his CFO? She's in on it too." I didn't waste any time. I started compiling everything into a single file. Emails, financial records, photos, videos, it was all there. A roadmap of their betrayal. But I didn't act yet. I wanted to see how far they'd go. Carter, meanwhile, was living his best life. He just announced a groundbreaking new project, a luxury resort on the coast. He'd even convinced a group of investors to pour millions into the venture. "This is going to be the crown jewel of my empire," he boasted during a press conference. "A place where dreams come true." I watched the live stream, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The evidence was ready. All I had to do was hit send. But I waited. A few days later, Carter hosted a lavish party to celebrate the resort's groundbreaking. He invited everyone, investors, celebrities, even some of our old college friends. I wasn't on the guest list, of course. But that didn't stop me from showing up. I arrived just as the party was in full swing. Carter was holding court in the center of the room, a glass of champagne in one hand and a smug smile on his face. "Mark," he said when he saw me. "What are you doing here?" I smiled. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Then I handed the event coordinator a USB drive and whispered, "Play this." The room went silent as the screen behind Carter lit up. Emails, financial records, photos, everything I'd collected over the past few weeks. The crowd gasped. Carter froze, his face pale. His CFO tried to rush the stage, but security stopped her. "What is this?" someone shouted. I stepped forward, microphone in hand. "This is the truth. Carter has been lying to all of you. His empire is built on fraud." The room erupted. People were shouting, phones were out, recording everything. Carter tried to speak, but no one was listening. He was screaming at me, tears streaming down his face. "Mark, how could you do this to me?" I just looked at him. "You did this to yourself." The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, the story was everywhere. News outlets, social media, even industry blogs were covering the scandal. Teknova CEO exposed, fraud, embezzlement, and lies. Investors demand answers. Carter and his team tried to spin the narrative, but it was too late. The evidence was overwhelming. Investors started pulling out, one after another. The resort project was cancelled, and Teknova's stock plummeted. Carter was forced to step down as CEO, and his CFO was arrested within days, facing charges of fraud and embezzlement. Carter, meanwhile, was in full damage control mode. He posted a tearful video on LinkedIn, claiming he'd been misled by his team. "I never meant to hurt anyone. I was just trying to build something great." The comments were brutal. "You're a liar. You deserve everything that's coming to you." I didn't say a word. I just watched as his life unraveled. But the best part? The money. Thanks to Sarah's help, I was able to recover most of the stolen funds. The investors even offered me a settlement to keep quiet about the details. I didn't take it. Instead, I used the evidence to start my own company, a legitimate one this time. By the end of the month, Carter was gone. He moved back in with his parents, his reputation in ruins. As for me, I was just getting started. Carter thought the worst was over. He was wrong. I spent the next few weeks quietly building my case. I knew he'd try to rebuild his life, and I wasn't about to let that happen. First, I reached out to some of Carter's former employees. They'd been silent out of fear, but now that the truth was out, they were eager to talk. One of them, a young accountant named Mia, had been fired for questioning Carter's ethics. When I showed her the evidence, she was furious. "He ruined my career, Mark. He told everyone I was incompetent, and I couldn't find another job because of him." I handed her a folder. "Here's everything you need to clear your name." Mia didn't waste any time. She went public with her story, and the media ate it up. Former employee exposes Carter's toxic behavior. Carter tried to defend himself, But no one was listening. His reputation was beyond repair. Next, I turned my attention to his investors. They'd lost millions, and they were looking for someone to blame. I sent them a detailed report, outlining every lie, every fraudulent transaction, every shady deal Carter had made. The response was immediate. Lawsuits were filed, and Carter was facing criminal charges. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Carter's parents had always adored him, but even they couldn't ignore the truth. When they found out what he'd done, they were furious. His father called me one evening, his voice cold and steady. "Mark, I want to thank you for exposing this. We've decided to cut Carter off completely. He needs to face the consequences of his actions." I didn't say much, just thanked him and hung up. The next day, the news broke. Disgraced CEO Carter cut off by family. Carter was arrested within hours. The charges were serious: fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. He was looking at years in prison. He tried to reach out to me one last time. "Mark, please. I'll do anything. Just help me." I didn't respond. I'd already moved on. A year later, my life looked nothing like it had before. Carter was serving a 5-year sentence, and his once glamorous life was in ruins. His parents had cut him off completely, and his former friends wanted nothing to do with him. As for me, I'd rebuilt my life from the ground up. I started my own company, a small but successful tech firm that specialized in ethical business solutions. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to succeed. And I did. Within months, I had a growing list of clients and a reputation for honesty and integrity. I also reconnected with old friends, the ones who'd stood by me when everything fell apart. Mia, the accountant Carter had fired, joined my team. Together, we built something incredible. But the best part? I found love again. Her name was Emma. She was a journalist I met at a tech conference. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of innovation and bad puns. She didn't know about my past, and when I finally told her, she didn't flinch. "Mark, you're not defined by what happened to you. You're defined by how you moved forward." Those words stayed with me. One evening, as we sat on my balcony watching the sunset, Emma turned to me. "Do you ever think about Carter?" I shook my head. "Not really. He's part of my past, not my future." Emma smiled. "Good. Because your future looks pretty amazing." She was right. A few months after Carter's arrest, I finally felt ready to close that chapter of my life. I'd built my company into something I was proud of, a place where honesty and integrity mattered. We'd even started a program to help small businesses recover from fraud, something that felt deeply personal to me. Mia became my right-hand woman, and together, we created a workplace where people felt valued and respected. It wasn't just a company, it was a family. Emma and I grew closer every day. She'd moved in with me, and our apartment was filled with laughter and warmth. She'd even started writing a book about ethical business practices, inspired by my story. One evening, as we sat on the couch, she looked at me and said, "You know, Mark, what you did wasn't just about revenge. It was about standing up for what's right. You didn't just take Carter down, you built something better." I smiled. She was right. But the real closure came when I visited my parents. They'd been distant after everything that happened, unsure of how to process the fallout. But when I showed them what I'd built, their eyes filled with pride. "We're so proud of you, Mark," my mom said, tears in her eyes. "You've become the man we always knew you could be." It was the first time I'd heard those words in years.